26. We are going to be doing a masculine, feminine, and non-binary energy update. We are going to be starting today with the energy of masculine. We're going to be utilizing the Smith-Waite Centennial deck to read into the masculine headspace. Can I please get 3 cards, please? 3 cards coming through right now. We have here the King of Pentacles in its upright, in combination with our Temperance card in its upright, in combination with the Queen of Wands in its reversal. Those are some very intense cards. So let's talk a little bit about what we are energetically seeing. This is a continuation of what we're identifying in relationality to what feels restorative in terms of, I keep on getting, there's a lot of this energy that we're working on right now that is related to healing Aries energy. And why do we keep on seeing that it's working to heal Aries energy? It's working on the restoration of healing, the misconceptions that we often construe when it comes to Aries energy. And what is that? That's a continuation of what we effectively talked about, right? What it actually means to be strong, the strength that is energetically performative versus being a steward, right? Versus being a steward for our strength. And so I feel like there's something very important in relationality to that because it's a continuation of being able to identify and recognize what feels energetically supportive. And it's a continuation further in the observation of what we identify is relationality to how we perceive and recognize our vulnerability, right? And this is a further continuation that we identify here with the Queen of Wands in its reversal, right? This is what we work into when we recognize what feels energetically expansive is working into the space of the vulnerability that it takes to energetically heal relationships. And why do we effectively see that? Because it's the observation, right? The observation of the trust that we build into that vulnerability that allows us to trust. We can't, and this is the thing about it. And I feel like a lot of the masculine energy, again, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what you feel most aligned to, right? The observation that in order to be able to trust, we must be vulnerable, right? It's very easy. We're very inclined to desire to bring our trust wounds into relationship, right? But here's the thing about it, and this is what we understand and identify. When we're working to heal trust wounds, then we have to understand trusting is never a failure point. Right? And when you recognize this, right? Because when you identify and recognize that vulnerability is a gift, right? When you hold, and this is why it's like, this is how we heal the relationships. When we look at our vulnerability as something that we cherish, then whenever we effectively share our vulnerability, we are giving another person the opportunity to likewise cherish it, right? So it is the mutual cherishment of vulnerability that allows for the strength of relationship, right? It's the sensitivity that we bring to things. It is the conscientious effort by which we apply that force of energetic effort. So we see that for a lot of the energy that is effectively doing that work, right? It's literally it's working through, like, what it means to be strong, right? What is strength, right? Strength is being. Like, when one has strength, then one does not feel like one must prove one's strength. Like, why? Like, that is the difference, right? That's a show of force. So the observation of what it means to be strong, right? The difference between, I keep on getting, and this is what we mean about healing the Aries energy, the difference between warlike and a warrior, right? Aries is not warlike, they're energetic warriors because warlike is feeling the need, is like feeling the need to energetically test something, right? It's the need by which one looks for something to test one's energetic strength upon. And often the space by which you feel like you need to test your strength is observation of recognition that you're probably not that strong, right? In the way beyond the space by which we celebrate, right? Beyond the space by which we celebrate, right? Again, Aries energy likes to celebrate their strength, right? They like to the space by which, and I keep on seeing this, like the space by which you want to show off the energetic strength of something is not the space by which you feel like you need to, like the need of having to energetically test it upon something, right? So I keep on seeing that this is a lot of that energy that feels like it is healing because it's the observation that when we're in healthy spaces, then we test our strength in the best ways possible because it's being able to identify and work towards our energetic vulnerability, right? The expectation or the understanding that feels profound because we identify and recognize that we're working through something that we haven't experienced before, right? So there's a lot of that energy that we effectively see there, and to a certain extent, it feels very profound. It's a profound healing, but a lot of that work, and I just keep on recognizing this, a lot of that work that we're identifying is working through, I keep on hearing it's working through the observation of how we effectively care about each other or how we energetically esteem upon one another, right? The space by which we hold each other sacredly. So I feel like there's a lot of that energy that's working through that. And I feel like at the same time, it's painful because they feel, right? They feel they feel the mutual violation of energy that is not held sacredly, right? The observation of the frustration that is often arises in the context, right? In the context of another articulating upon something that is not that is working through the space of energetically feeling like one is owed something. And you'll always notice this, right? Like we talk about this, like we talk about the work by which we are like we are never owed, right? We're never owed relationship. And you can usually tell when someone is sick, when they feel like they're owed one, right? Because it's the space by which we understand that we build into what is beautiful. We put that effort, that energetic effort into spaces. So I feel like it's hard because for a lot of the masculine that's working through those circumstances, like it's almost like masculine trying to heal masculine, almost articulating and saying, "Do you see how sick it is? Do you see how sick you are?" If you're looking at relationship and you're not saying, "Why can't I find one?" but feeling the sense of one being owed one is often the space by which, again, the journey of healing relationship starts inwards, right? It starts inwards in terms of identifying what feels like it's being able to identify the beauty in things, not in the feeling that you deserve, like that, not the feeling like the beauty is there for your for because like nobody deserves, like it's not the beauty by which we effectively look at something and desire it, it's how we effectively allow the beauty in our life to grow that often creates beautiful circumstances. Now, this is bringing us to the feminine energy. And for feminine energy, we are going to be utilizing the Tarot of the Divine. I've already got one card popping out and it's already in its transverse. So we've got the Two of Cups in its transverse. And 2 more cards, please. Okay, 2 more, please. Thank you. We've got here the Ace of Cups in its upright in combination with the Hierophant. Now, let's talk a little bit about the energy that we're effectively seeing here. And for feminine, again, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to. The thing I keep on seeing, it's very much similar to what we're seeing across, which is saying again, the observation of I feel like this is a lot of the feminine that is identifying and recognizing upon the space by which one holds like, one identifies and holds oneself in the space of identifying that sense of sacred, right? And this is what's beautiful about a lot of that energy that we're potentially seeing there, right? Because it's a lot of the feminine that says, "Start with sacred," right? That when feminine holds themselves in a sacred state, then everything is in the space by which it can energetically change. Because when we talk about the space of holding ourselves sacredly, it and this is what's beautiful about it, sacred does not mean special, right? And this is what's beautiful, like, my sacred doesn't have to affect your sacred, right? We can be energetically sacred together. Like, that's what's so beautiful about sacredness, is that when we're working through sacred energy, there it's sacred energy can be shared. And that's what's beautiful about it. Like, the more like, the more that something is energetically sacred, right? Then the more you give it to others. Like, look at that. There's more sacred for everyone, right? It's the sacredness that we give to each other that then feels like it's energetically expansive. And when we recognize that my sacred is just as valuable as your sacred, then we can share our sacredness together. And then there's beautiful things that energetically emerge. But all of it starts with holding oneself in a state of care. And the modality by which, right, the feminine is working to heal are working through situations and circumstances by which others try to effectively diminish, right? Diminish one's own relevance or significance, right? Like, the space by which another person often makes us feel like we are too much, right? Working through the energetic muchness. And I like to point this out. What happens in trauma spaces, right? In trauma spaces, you'll have this wild thing occur. You wanna know this wild thing that occurs in trauma spaces? The craziest thing happens in trauma spaces. Someone will compliment you as if it's an insult. Someone will compliment you as if it's an insult, articulating something that you know to be true about the self in a way by which one feels that one shouldn't. Right? Trauma spaces are wild for that reason. It creates that sense of energetic absurdity. But this is why we see that this is a lot of the feminine that's working through that pathwork of wisdom, right? Because it's the observation, right? Often in the space by which you see or you recognize or identify another, right? Not esteeming something that you aspire to build within the self. Well, that's not something that you work to change, right? That's not something that you apply energetic effort towards. It's an observation that allows you to continue onward, right? I feel like that's what's beautiful about this, which is like, I don't see the feminine in a space of feeling the sense of having to change another person's impression if they want to look at feminine energy in a diminished space, because I literally see the feminine saying, if you look at feminine in a diminished way, Don't be surprised if you don't see a lot of love in your experience. If you literally say to the universe, "I don't see feminine as that important," be ready. The universe is very patient. The universe will give you exactly what you ask for. So the feminine will say, if you don't like love, if you don't like compassion, if you really feel like those things are not important, well, right? What do you effectively expect to happen, right? It's the observation of the love that we bring to things, right? That love, we have to hold it sacredly if we expect to find it in our energetic experiences. So I see that a lot of the energy that is facilitating upon that is working through the observation of the fact that it's not surprising that things reach terrible spaces when you're diminishing the importance and significance of the love that is found through equal energetic partnership. And now this brings us to the non-binary space. And for non-binary energy right now, we're going to be utilizing the oop, we already got cards popping out. We're going to be utilizing the Nouveau Tarot. Can I get 3 cards, please? We've got here we've got the King of Wands and its reversal, which came out as soon as we started reading. 2 more, please. We've got a cantilevered card in the center and 1 more. We've got the 10 of Swords cantilevered, and we also have the 6 of Wands in its upright. So let's talk a little bit about what we're energetically seeing in relationality to a lot of the work here. Um, I feel like for a lot of how do I describe this? This is it's working through the frustration of selfishness. It's a combination of what we see that's happening. It's working through, it's understanding that I keep on seeing selfishness. And let's talk about selfishness. This is often there's selfishness, and then there is selflessness, is what I keep on seeing. And working through the understanding of selfishness and selflessness is the recognition of what we effectively put our hearts into, right? It's the modality or the experience by which we recognize and identify the energetic intrinsic value that we bring into situations. And I keep on getting that this is energy that often works through the pain, right? They work through the pain of working through the pain of having to energetically make choices that they recognize are selfless, right? The observation, and this is the hard part that you often see, the modality of understanding that when we're making selfless choices, right? That even in the space by which you're making a selfless choice, another person will choose to perceive selfishness in it is often speaking more towards what another person is energetically denying themselves versus what we're effectively finding within, right? It's understanding, right? It's understanding that anything that we give to ourselves, if we would eagerly give it to another, then that is the heart of reciprocity, right? That is the heart of a healing journey. The work that we do to find the compassion within that we're then able to express without. But be prepared, right? Be prepared as you head on that healing journey. What is the first person thing you're going to hear? You're making selfish choices, right? The first thing you will hear, the first thing you will hear as you get ready to take that healing journey is you're being very selfish right now. But that's why, because it's the understanding that when we apply care to ourselves, we apply care and then we observe, right? We apply care and then we observe in relationality to how another person observes that care, right? Because that the observation of the care that we give ourselves tells us everything we need to know about situations and circumstances, right? And it's hard. It's painful, it's frustrating, but it's also energetically fortifying. So I feel like we see like we see a lot of that energy there working through, right? Working through those circumstances and even in the space by which one is working through the circumstances, right? Like having a lot of energetic patience. And I keep on hearing a lot of the work that's happening right now is not getting overwhelmed, is what I keep on getting, right? Making sure that you're applying that sense of care to the self as one is continuing through circumstances or situations is what I keep on seeing. And I like to point this out, like, and I feel like especially, right? I feel like especially with this 10 of swords in its upright. You know, I keep on hearing, like, it's the observation of when we are working, profoundly, healthy energy doesn't take things personally, is what I keep on seeing. There's something very significant about that. It's painful, but it's energetically unifying, if that makes sense. Um, Continuing to get clarification, and we're whoop, okay. I was gonna pull another I was gonna pull another I was gonna use another deck, but the cards are insisting, so we're gonna be utilizing the Nouveau Tarot again. Okay, don't have to be so it's okay. Alright. Alright, can I get 2 more? Well, clearly one is in its transverse. Can I get 2 more, please? Okay. Alright, what do we have here? We've got the 8 of Pentacles in its transverse. We've got the 4 we're moving back into the heart space of masculine. Again, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to. We've got 8 of pentacles in its transverse. We got 4 of wands in its upright. And we've got 2 of swords in its upright. Okay, let's talk about it, man. Okay. All right. Okay. It's fine. How do I describe this? Okay. Um, you know, I keep on seeing healthy the space by which and we wanna talk about how hard this type of work is, specifically and particularly, in relationality to masculine energy. Because what we're effectively seeing there, right? And I need to describe this. And you know, if you're masculine working through this, you will understand. Entitlement is literally the sound of someone saying, "No one understands." Okay? It's literally the isolation of an entitled opinion that is so toxic. Okay? It's the isolation that is created in an entitled opinion that often creates the space, right? It often creates the space by which we understand, like, and that's what's so hard about it, right? The isolation of an entitled opinion, right? Which often that tries to characteristically articulate upon the fact that nobody understands. Everybody, here's the thing about it, right? Everybody profoundly has the capacity of understanding everything, right? We don't need to be We don't need to be in each other's energetic experiences to have empathy, right? But what is often the space by which another person lacks it, right? The space by which another person lacks it is often the space by which they say, nobody understands, right? Nobody understands, being like, did you give someone an opportunity to try? Like, did you give someone you cannot say, right? You cannot say that nobody understands if you haven't given someone the opportunity to try, right? Like, it's like, and that's often what like, that's often what we see, right? Like, that's often what we understand, like, the feeling, and this is the thing when you get, like, again, the difference between isolation and solemnity is understanding the quality and characteristic of feeling comfortable within our own self, right? It's the observation of being able to work through things, and I keep on seeing, like, for a lot of the masculine energy that's working through that, it's having right, it's having a healthy relationship to one's own feelings of isolation. Because what happens when you have a healthy relationship to one's own feeling of isolation? We've got a word for that. It's called solemnity, right? A healthy relationship with one's own feelings of isolation can become really precious stuff. It can literally become the stuff that dreams are made of. Because when we understand, right? When we understand the profound quality and characteristic of being surrounded by everything and then feeling wholly in a space by which we ourselves, are working through something, right? Then we don't punish others for our feeling of isolation. It's something that becomes profound. It's something that we expound upon. It's something that we become passionate about. It's something that becomes a place by which we work to fill it, but we don't demand that it be filled. While for feminine, and I feel like a lot of the energy of the masculine working through that, not even I feel like it's not even a conversation with other energy. I feel like it's a conversation with the self is what I keep on seeing. Right? It's towards other masculine energy. It's trying to bring into that understanding of awareness, right? That the one thing you will feel as you continue through experiences is perpetually alone. And I'm here to tell you, we all feel that at every single moment. It's what we do to heal it that shows us who we are at every moment. And that brings us to the feminine energy. And for feminine, we're going to be utilizing the Smith-Waite Centennial deck, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to. 3 cards, please. We've got the Page of Wands in its reversal. We've got the 10 of Pentacles in its upright. And we also have the Hangman in its reversal. So this is and again, this is a lot of different stuff that we're energetically seeing here. And the observation of what we're effectively seeing in relationality to that work is it's I want to describe this as the frustration that feminine often experiences as it relates to the nature of having to carry fear, right? And this is what's wild about it, and this is what's so frustrating for feminine energy, right? It's the modality by which you would much rather not carry fear everywhere, right? But when you're in a space by which others don't hold you sacredly, then the fear's gotta come with you everywhere, okay? It's it's working through that. It's working through the frustration of that. And often, right, like I said, What is the modality by which we recognize and identify, right? What is the sound of entitlement, right? The sound of entitlement is often articulated by the energy by which another person says, nobody understands, right? It's the modality by which the identification point, right? And I keep on seeing that this is a lot of the feminine that often works through experiences by which, right? Energy, like, literally seeing somebody say, like, running towards them and saying, "Don't," like, you can't run towards someone and say, "Don't be afraid of me." Have you ever noticed? Like, have you ever noticed, like, do you ever notice how terrifying that is for someone to come running towards you and saying, "Don't be afraid of me"? That's terrifying. Like, that's terrifying stuff because it's the context of understanding another's energetic presumption. Right? The well-reasoned energetic presumption that we often build as it relates to energetic entitlement, right? The space by which we work to energetically resolve is how we effectively navigate or work through things. And I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy that is focused upon healing, right? I feel like a lot of energy of feminine that often articulates that they have to be brave every day in a million different ways, right? How incredibly impressive it is for the feminine every day to be brave in a million different ways, in a million different things, because that is the space by which they put their heart, right? Like, that is the bravery by which we bring things to situations, right? A million different ways, a million different braveries every day, a world by which every moment you look at something and say, "How can I be braver here? How can I put my heart here a little bit more? How can I care about something more?" And that observation of the level of care it takes for feminine to have to be brave, right? To be brave in a world that often can feel depraved to the feminine. Because what is depravity if not a lack of bravery? What is depravity if not a lack of bravery? So the space by which we put our bravery in a depraved world is the space by which we put ourselves forward in that way. And when we see it, and this is why the feminine is working to heal comparison, when others see when others see one another working so hard, right? Putting that effort in every day, look at that energy, a little bit braver there, a little bit braver over here, then that is the stuff that allows the world to change. But it requires all of us to be able to do it every day in a million different ways, right? And it's not something that we demand of each other, it's something that we give to one another. While for a lot of for the non-binary energy right now, 3 cards in the heart space, and we're gonna be utilizing the tarot of the divine for the heart space of non-binary. 3 cards, please. Oh, cantilever. Hold on. We've got the Queen of Wands in its upright. We've got the 8 of Cups in its reversal. And we also have the Queen of Swords in its reversal. And I feel like this is what's so difficult for a lot of the energy working through the thing about working through, and I feel like this is the energy that understands bravery all like very well, right? There's not one circumstance or situation by which, and this is what I meant about the energy working through the disambiguation between selfless or selfish, right? This is what will happen as you heal. You will be putting your bravery everywhere, right? That same bravery that we saw that was in the feminine heart space that occupies the space of the non-binary, in the space by which everything one utilizes one's own self as energetic shield, right? The modality by which we see ourselves or we work through the context of the love that one hopes to give to the world. right? And the modality by which you know that you will give that forth. And those who cannot see it will misperceive it as selfish, right? Looking the space by which one chooses to embody the love that one holds for oneself, in the authenticity that one chooses to find, right? How hard it is to evolve into one's authenticity, and then recognizing the space that there you will be in the heart of your authenticity, and another person will see you there, operating in the heart of your authenticity, trying to put that bravery everywhere, and because they're so shielded in terms of navigating their own vulnerability, all they can say is, "Why are you making such a selfish choice?" Right? Because it is the projection, the selfishness that is directed to another that speaks about the lack space within another, right? So the selfishness by which another person articulates how much they've energetically denied themselves, how much denial one must be of joy by which you see another person doing nothing, not hurting anyone, just moving towards their joy and hoping to share that joy, and then articulating that as selfish, which often speaks towards the observation of seeing the depravity within another person's experience, right? The depravity that articulates the void by which they avoid learning about the self or working through the self or deepening the relationship to the emotionality of the self, but in the context by which they see another person that has nothing to do with them, and then feeling like they must experience the full force of the projection. So this is a lot of the energy that works through the ability of understanding why it's so hard to build energetic relationships, right? The fact that they often feel that they have to hold themselves in a space by which they're very protective, because I see that the energy has understood, right? The modality by which, right? Like, look at this. We've got the Queen of Wands and the Queen of Sword in its reversal. Like, every time someone comes towards them, almost having to say, "What are you here for? Are you here because you're energetically interested in the person, or are you looking to project something upon it?" Right? And this is why we see that it makes it much harder, because this is a lot of the energy that often navigates situations more energetically closed off, but energetically closed off for a reason, right? This is what we identify as healthy shielding. Now that brings us back into the unconscious space of the masculine energy. 3 cards, please, for masculine, and we're gonna be utilizing we'll be utilizing the Tarot of the Divine for the unconscious of masculine. Again, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to. We've got here the 8 of Wands in its upright, so we've got a lot of 8 energy right now. This is similar to what we see in the non-binary space. 2 more, please. We've got the Emperor in its reversal, as well as the 6 of Coins in its upright. So, let's talk a little bit about this energy that we're seeing here. Because and we've got another card coming out, so I'm actually gonna read this one too, because I was about to pick up this deck, but it's there, so we're gonna and I wanna describe this, right? We've got a lot of energy that's moving into Aries right now. And often the amplification of working through the eclipse cycles can bring a lot of those feelings that are coming through. If like eclipses amplify. Sometimes it amplifies positive. It'll also amplify negative. The one card that we have that was appearing was the Knight of Swords in its reversal, right? And I want to show you this, because this is what we effectively see that's happening right now in the unconscious of masculine, which is working through, right? I just keep on hearing the same message. A healthy manifestation goal is one that is mutually shared. A healthy manifestation goal is one that is mutually shared, right? The observation, the observation and recognition of how easy it is to move into harmony. The ease of moving into harmony that requires total bravery, right? The energetic ease of moving into harmony, all it takes is bravery, right? And this is often why, this is often why, and I feel like this is a lot of I feel like this is a lot of masculine energy healing from the cringiness of it's healing from the cringiness of relationship as trap is what I keep on hearing. Like, this is a lot of the masculine energy healing from the cringiness of relationship as trap, right? Do you realize how sick you are if you look at relationship as a trap? Like, do you understand the full level of illness that you are occupying by which you see relationship, which is literally what we're here to do, right? Why else are we here if not to heal relationship? What else are we doing here? Like, what else are we doing? Everything else, I need to point out everything else we've made up. The only thing here that is true is the relationships between us. Literally, the energetic exchange of relationship is the only thing. It is the only thing that is real. So I want you to imagine a world where but I want you to imagine how others see this. The world by which the only thing that is true is relationships that we create between us and the space of the illness that must be occupied in an experience by which you see the only thing that is real and sacred on this earth, one identifies as trap, right? Do you understand what's up? Do you understand the level of illness that one must be in to be able to experience something to that degree? The energetic bliss that we create at every moment in finding one another and being able to understand the harmony of what can occur in the space of knowing one another, right? And this is why I see a lot of this energy that is effectively this is why I feel like I see a lot of the masculine energy looking towards the masculine energy mortified and saying, "Do you understand how much harder you make it for those who are trying to thrive? Do you know how much harder you make it when you are trying to thrive, when there's a whole portionality of energy that refuses to heal, that looks at the whole reason we're being here as the problem instead of the solution?" Right? The observation of the energetic gift that we have every time we experience one another and how wonderful it is but with every person, we become someone beautiful and different. The observation of learning from one another through those interaction points, the absolute beauty of the way that energy works in that way, and to feel that modality by which you experience that and say, you have to work to be careful about it, right? You have to, like, yo, like this is what I told you about the Aries energy healing, right? You protect it. You don't fight against it. You protect it. You're precious with it. You hold it sacredly. You don't look at it like combat. You look at it as the journey of a lifetime, right? You fight for it. You don't energetically fight against it because that is the space by which you will feel things you've never felt before, right? Things don't end there. They begin. While for and literally see a lot of the energy that understands this is trying to articulate that. But it can't begin unless you desire that for the self. And it starts with loving that vulnerable part within, not in terms of demanding it outward and saying, where is it? While for feminine energy, bottom of the deck, I mean, unconscious, we're going to be utilizing the Nouveau Tarot. 3 cards, please. We've got the 7. We've got the 7 of Cups in its reversal, the Knight of Cups in its reversal, as well as the 4 of Cups in its reversal. All Cups energy, heavy Pisces, heavy Pisces, heavy Pisces. Now, I'll just point this out, right? Often when we're coming out of eclipse processes, we can feel very emotionally sensitive, right? If you already feel empathic, right? if you already feel energetically empathic, right? If you're already feeling energetically empathic and you're going through experiences like this, it can often feel, it can often feel like there's a lot. It can feel like the overwhelm of others, right? A lot of that heightened sensitivity. Not allowing, I keep on seeing not allowing the emotions, not allowing the emotions to overwhelm, but being able to take directional steps in relationality to being energetically clear upon things or being very exacting is what I keep on seeing. And that's what I like, like that's one of the things that we observe that is potentially occurring right now for feminine energy, right? Emotions emotions are the point so long as emotions have directions attached to them. Right? Feelings are nothing or everything, depending on whether the feelings are giving healthy direction, right? So, our ability to be able to articulate and identify not just how we feel, but why we feel the things we do, allow us to be able to understand the value of our emotions, right? This is why we don't try to disassociate from our emotions, right? We sit within them and it's in the space by which we feel them that they don't feel like they overwhelm us, but often that we're able to effectively attenuate and feel through them. So I feel like for a lot of the feminine energy, that is potentially working upon the realm of the feelings in the best way, because it's a continuation of saying emotions, right? And I need to point this out. What will trauma say, right? What will trauma say? "What are you doing bringing those emotions in here?" Right? What will trauma say? Trauma will make you feel like we'll try to take a compliment and make it feel like it's a detriment, right? That's the wild thing about trauma. You'll bring gifts into places, and the trauma will try to make you feel like the gift isn't a gift, right? Our emotions are gifts, as long as we have directions attached to them, which doesn't mean, right? So as long as like there's nothing wrong with bringing emotions to place, and so long as there's a direction attached, which says like the reason we can articulate why we feel so energetically empathic about something because it's important, right? Because it's important. So we see that that's a lot of the energy that works through circumstances and situations in that way. But even as they do so, right? Even as they do so, being very, very clear on what the emotions mean, right? It's that beautiful expansive process by which we're able to effectively articulate the meaning. So that's a lot of the energy that's healing, potentially even healing from situations and circumstances that were requiring them not to have feeling, right? The healing from situations and circumstances that required one not to have feelings, right? What will trauma say? Let go of emotions if you hope to reside here, right? Those emotions are your shield. They're there to protect you. Never let go of those. While for the unconscious of non-binary, right? 3 cards, please. And we're going to be utilizing the Smith-Waite Centennial deck. What do we have here? 2, 3. We've got the 5 of Wands in its reversal. We've got the Justice card in its upright. And we also have the Knight of Pentacles in its reversal. So what are we identifying in relationality to a lot of the work in the non-binary space right now? And I want to describe this. I keep on hearing the word that's coming through is something that effectively the word that we see here is the word provocative, right? Now let's talk about this. Something that energetically provokes us allows us to be able to feel that we ourselves understand or see things. And the healthy spiritual journey is not about it's not about refusing to look at things, right? Like the space by which my sacredness is not hurt by your sacredness. And if there's something wrong, if my sacredness can't stand to see something, then I better be able to articulate the reason why, right? Because the thing is, the higher self loves a conversation. And if something's wrong, the higher self would love to go into exquisite detail to be able to articulate exactly why something is wrong. It is the blessed conversation that goes on ad infinitum in relationality to literally talking about why something is not okay. But what do you notice about trauma? Trauma never has anything to say about the things that one is disinclined about, right? And will often articulate some kind of illogical reason as to why something is wrong, right? The identification point of wrongness is being able to articulate. If you can't articulate why something is wrong, that is your trauma in disguise. Because our trauma loves nothing better than to masquerade as standards. And that is why it is very important that we are logical when we hold standards. Because if you don't work on your trauma, my friend, I promise you, you're going to go around with standards. You're going to be telling everybody you have standards, and those standards are going to be ridiculous. Those standards are going to be ridiculous. And when somebody asks you why, you're going to say, because I said so. That is not what the higher self said. The higher self never says, I said so. The higher self always has a reason why. The higher self always has a reason why. But the trauma likes to say, I said so. The dead space of a final energetic conversation by which another person does not want to broach a subject, which is articulating upon the fact that they themselves have shadow work that they have not done, right? The space by which we navigate our uncomfortability, the space by which we articulate upon what it is that we feel and what it is that it doesn't require us to be okay with everything. We're not supposed to be okay with everything. But the space by which we can conversate upon it is the space by which everything begins. And this is why I see this energy that works towards relationships so carefully, because they've experienced both. They've experienced modalities by which they themselves have been held sacredly versus energy that potentially was intrigued by them, right? The modality by which another person says that they're energetically intrigued only to feel because when somebody says they're intrigued by you and they haven't done their shadow work, prepare for prepare for all of that shadow work to be projected upon you, right? Prepare for all of that shadow work to be projected upon the self. So that modality and experience, right? This is the energy that says they hold those standards and they hold them for a reason. And yes, they'll be very happy to elaborate upon them, right? Because it is the conversation that is foundational to where they find themselves. It is where things start. And that's why I see, right? I feel like that's the energy that gets I feel like that's a lot of energy that recognizes that things start to crumble when somebody says, I don't want to talk about it, right? The modality that is often articulated by which another person brings a full stop, right? You can't, we only articulate, and there's a difference. I keep on hearing the energy that recognizes the difference between someone that says full stop versus I'm not ready to have that conversation, because this is how we make room for each other's trauma, which is the observation, right? The observation that it doesn't require us to have to address everything at every moment, but the space by which we can say to someone that says, I'm steadying myself to ready myself to heal even further, right? The beauty of a different conversation between another person says, the difference, everything that changes in the subtle difference between someone that says, I don't want to talk about it versus I'm not ready to talk about it. And the reason that that's so significant is the observation of someone experiencing the wall in the self by which they refuse to face something versus someone who's seeing it, right? They're like, yep, it's there. It's there. It's like, it's there. I just haven't got, I'm aware of it, right? That's why, because it's the identification of the energetic awareness that allows us to effectively resolve it even further. bottom of the deck on this reading, masculine. Come on. Oh, come on. Get off the table. Come on. Stop being so. The cards. Inner child healing. I just want to point out the reason I'm laughing so hard is if you just realize how long it took me to get this magician off the table. It was I was literally I was very intrigued. I was like, I know I was like, "This gonna be a problematic it's gonna be a problematic card." I'm like, it was giving me all this trouble. It was like, "I don't wanna get up." It was like, it didn't wanna get off the table, right? It's but here's the thing about and I'd like to point this out. That's what healing is, right? The difference between something that is healthy and something that is indulgent, right? The difference between something that is energetically healthy versus someone energetically indulgent is the observation and the point of effort in relationality to, right? The observation and the intentionality to the fact that when we're working through things, the only way out is through. Right? It's doing the hard part. It's doing the work. It's coming into those spaces and into those places by which we feel, right? Like this is a continuation of working through like Uranus coming out of retrograde in Taurus, which says that when we recognize that we're healing, we're always moving towards the uncomfortable, right? Not in a way that feels like it contorts us but in the observation in the space. And I feel like this is a, and I like to point this out, it's a continuation of a lot of the energy continuing to heal Aries that says, right? Right. It's the modality by which we work in terms of being into the space of being able to admit that we don't know everything that allows us to be able to learn more, right? We have to start with the space by which we look at the world with a sense of wonder, right? We have to look at the world as wondrous, not as conqueror, right? Because if you look at the world as wondrous, then be prepared to be amazed, right? And if you look at the world as conqueror, prepared to be frustrated. Like prepared to be frustrated. Now, continuing to get clarification for feminine energy, we're going to be utilizing the tarot of the divine, the 5 of swords in its reversal. And this is a lot I feel like this is a lot of the feminine getting like comparison comparison is the thief of joy, right? And it's not just the fact comparison is the thief of joy because it's the modality by which when we recognize our exquisite, there's nothing in the world that compares to you. I want you to look yourself if you're ever feeling like that, I want you to look yourself in the mirror and say that there has never been anyone like you here in all of experience, that you are an exquisite being simply by breathing. And the modality by which you realize that we are all exquisite beings, simply from the act of breathing, then it doesn't then the ability to want to compare feels like anathema. Why would you want to compare yourself to anything? And why would anyone want to get you in the modality by which they and often when someone tries to do that, then you're like, "That's interesting." Like, "That's interesting. That's interesting." That's really no, I'm very interested about the fact that you're comparing me there. It's a really interesting take you got there, right? And it's the best we build upon each other, right? We're energetically inspired by one another. We build into the context of the journey of working through things. And in the way by which we do so, we find directional and exceptional, right? And so and that doesn't mean I keep wondering, it doesn't mean that there aren't ways that we can't perfect and learn from one another, but it's the perfection and learning that feels like we're helping each other every step of the way. "Hey, you got something there. Let me like, here, I got you, right? I got you." Right? Like, that's what it feels like when we get rid of comparison. "I got you. You got me. We got each other. We're gonna get through this." Right? We just get each other every step of the way, right? And this is a lot of the feminine that is working into, right? Working into how it feels to have that I got you energy, right? Like, it's okay. Like, we're all moving in the same direction and we're helping each other every step of the way. While for non-binary, on bottom of the deck right now, 10 of cups and it's reversal. It's painful. It's a scary world out there. It's absolutely terrifying, right? It's the context of trying to work. If you can't, if you laugh so you don't cry, right? And the modality by which we work through that, right? The understanding that we give to things, right? Nobody has a right to tell you how you carry your joy. Your joy is your birthright. And the modality, and often you'll often notice this, right? The modality by which one tries to find joy in a difficult situation, and someone being like, shouldn't you be concentrating on the trauma right now? Isn't that convenient? Isn't that funny how that works? The trauma that creates trauma and then says, look at this person. Look at this person not taking something seriously. Look at this person who's not taking the trauma sadly. Why aren't you crying? Right? That's what the trauma says. Don't you feel bad? Don't you feel bad that you don't feel worse right now? Don't you feel bad that you don't feel worse right now? And this is why we understand that our joy has an O in it because it also carries a sob. That the modality by which we find joy is never one that we do so because we don't care. It's the joy that amplifies. It's the joy that says, I know, and yet I still choose to find joy because that is the gift that we give to each other every single moment. A little bit braver, a little bit braver. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and receiving it. Just if you would like to if you'd like to book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my site. So I would encourage you to do it there. A couple of updates before we move into personal readings today. First and foremost, thank you to everybody who attended our recent class on the court cards in the Sword Suite. Our next class will be held on Thursday, March 19th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be continuing our studies into the tarot with a focus on the court cards in the court cards in the Cup Suite. If you would like to become a part of that tarot class program, all you need to do is head on over to my stack and become a paid subscriber. Your paid subscription to my stack is your ticket of entry into our live classes each and every month. As a paid subscriber, you will also have access to, as a paid monthly subscriber, you'll also have access to over 9 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church Library class system. It's not necessary to catch up. I'll be doing my best to give you an update on what we study in each class prior to beginning each class, but the material is there for you to receive as you're ready to receive it. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything we've learned and studied thus far. And if you become a founding member to my stack, not only will you receive a discount on the whole year's worth of classes, but you'll also have access to over 20 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church Library class archive. As I mentioned, we are going to be, you'll also have access to the opportunity of receiving a one-on-one mentorship class with me, where I will meet with you personally to assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey and give you the best insight in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best of your advantage, moving towards your tarot goals going forward. One of the things I try to do in these classes is make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. Don't let your lack of experience or your robust experience prevent you from joining us in these classes. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my stack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings or services. I also post my weekly newsletters there and my mystic meditation articles, which will let you know how we've been experiencing the energy on a bi-monthly period. I just wrote one recently on navigating this full moon energy that we're currently experiencing. I also want to let you guys know that on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These are for any of my students seeking a more personalized educational experience with me. I take a very limited number of students for this reason, as those classes are focused on each individual's personal spiritual goals and journey work. Those classes can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class series, weekly or biweekly, as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your personal journey. I also am very happy to offer dream interpretation readings, which can be purchased per dream or as a series. If you purchase a series, I would encourage you to start to keep a dream journal, as we will meet weekly or biweekly with that journal and utilize the tarot to understand the key themes and messages coming towards you in the dream space. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again tomorrow.